I think there's a lot of things we can just see in the way Christ stepped into suffering. Look at his honesty. I mentioned the Garden of Gethsemane when he asked guys to stay up with him because he wanted them to be with him as he was facing this dark night, and they slept, but he wanted someone to be with him. He was honest about that. He actually went to the Father and said, is there a way to redeem this world outside of the cross? And so I think the first thing we can learn from Christ's suffering is that it's okay to be honest about suffering and struggle. Also, we can learn that suffering is real and not imagined. So we can learn that Jesus was honest about it. We can learn that the suffering was real and painful and difficult. We can also learn that suffering had a purpose. And we can also learn that suffering wasn't the end of the story. Those truths from watching the Passion Week, as we read the Easter week of Jesus' life, that there's something about that really gives us hope, because the story didn't end in a grave, it ended with him risen. Every good movie you've ever seen, every good novel you've ever read, if you stop it at the wrong place, it's not a grand novel, it's a tragedy, or it's terrible. So be careful where you stop the story. We've all had an example in our lives where we were watching a movie and something happened. We couldn't finish watching it. We had to leave. It was on television. We had to turn the TV off. Or you've all been in a situation where you've been watching a movie and a commercial comes on at the wrong time. It's like, and you think, well, this is a horrible movie, or this is a horrible story. We can trust the author. God is ultimately sovereign, and he is writing the story. And if he is writing the story and can be trusted, then don't be too quick. Somebody once asked me, what do I do in counseling? And this is a little bit oversimplistic, but I think I help people not get stuck with the wrong ending to their story. And I help them write a better ending to the story with the help of the real author who's writing it. And that's a little simplistic, but it's kind of what you do. You help people realize that maybe the story doesn't stop here. Maybe as hard as this is, as much as Mona said to me last night, will I ever get over this? Will I ever be okay? Well, and the answer, though not easy or cheap, is the story doesn't end here. There is another chapter, and then there's ultimately an ending of this story that is in glory. Suffering's inevitable. How did Jesus say it? He didn't say he didn't say if the rains come. When he talked about people who build their house on sand, he didn't say if the rains come, no, he says when the rains come. The metaphor meaning that there's going to be storms in everybody's life. And so if there's going to be a storm in your life anyway, you don't get to call out which kind of storm is in your life versus the guy next to you. But you do have the choice of whether to kind of live honestly with that storm or to avoid it. And it's going to be in there anyway. If you avoid it, the storm's still going to do its damage. But when you're ready, to step into that storm, you'll find that the storm doesn't destroy you. And in the middle of that, there'll be some real power and hope. I hope I haven't made this sound like this is easy. I still have things I've got to still continue to face in my life. And so if I've made it sound like, oh, listen, it's a one and done. You just write you a psalm, lament, and tomorrow we'll just march on and everything will be easy. No, I don't think it ever gets. You were made for Eden. You were made for heaven. And you will always have some discomfort living in this fallen world. And so you either learn to live with it and walk along with it and trust Christ in the middle of it, or you live in denial and And I would just suggest you live in the truth, because Jesus said it sets us free.